Bolles wrote a book called What Color is Your Parachute? Came out first in 1972, and he kind of updates it every year. I recommend this book to everybody. I think Bolles does a great job of popularizing some very, very important notions. And the three pieces that he talks about, whenever you're making a transition, like you're picking a major, or you're trying to figure out what job you're going to do next, you just got laid off, what are you going to do next? You've been out of the workforce for 10 years, having kids, or raising kids, or taking care of parents, and now you're going back. Any kind of a transition. You're in a job that sucks. Like, what are you going to do next? How do I get out of this awful place? That there are three pieces that you need to be paying attention to. First of all, what are the functional skills that I've got and that I really like and that I want to continue to use? There's different kinds of skills, but functional skills, this is the Department of Labor taxonomy. Functional skills are the ones where you're actually functioning. You're doing something. You're doing somebody some good. So, for example, knowing all of the ins and outs of advising at KU, okay, knowledge of KUs, of all the majors and what all the majors require, that's not a functional skill. That's called a content skill. And believe it or not, KU is not going to hire you because you know that stuff. They're not going to hire you to sit in a room and know that stuff. They're going to hire you to sit in a room and advise students, and you obviously have to have that content knowledge. But this functional skill that they're going to hire you for is to be able to advise, to be able to sit with somebody and call on that information that you have, teach some of that to the student, help the student sort of work their way through it. That's the functional skill. That's the part where you can actually see some work being done. Okay. That's the part that employers pay you for, is the functional skills. They don't pay you to know, they pay you to do. And they don't pay you for all these wonderful character traits that you have, like being a hard worker. They expect you to do that, and they like you more if you do that, and you get to keep your job if you do that. But that's not really why they're paying you. They're paying you to do those functions. And you demonstrate you're a good worker by repeating those functional skills over and over again. Functional skills are really hard for people to identify. And I'm not sure exactly why that is. It's just the culture that we've grown up in, the language that we use, but identifying the things that you do that somebody would pay for, it's just a hard language for people to have. So, so as a good career counselor is really good at listening to somebody's story about what they do, what they like, and helping them name the functional skills that are in that story or in their experience. So helping people, like if you have little kids at home and they bring home a paper, just saying to them, wow, you are a really good writer. Giving them that kind of feedback to let them know that this is something that you really are pretty good at. I've noticed that you're always the one that's organizing the games in the neighborhood. That's kind of interesting that you do that. It's like something that you do well. Or all your friends always come to you and they tell you all the stuff that's going on. So that you must be pretty good at that. Giving kids that kind of feedback and giving students that kind of feedback, albeit you have a lot less experience with, when a student comes in, you have 30 minutes. You have to make that happen in a hurry. But in terms of a piece that you can give them, that's an important piece. Okay, so Bolles says, figure out what those are, and then figure out the context in which you want those to happen. Things like your field of interests, the values that you have that you would like to see happen in the world, the kind of people you like to work with as colleagues, the kind of people you would like to work with as customers or clients, geography, salary, responsibility, working, et cetera, et cetera. And then somehow pulling these two pieces together and getting out into the world and talking to people who are doing that. If I'm trying to figure out what it is I want to be when I grow up, Bolles says you have got to get out into the world and talk to people who are doing that. And there are reasons for that that I'll come back around to here in a minute. Okay, so the takeaway lessons for advisors from Bolles stuff. Work at naming skills. I just overdid that. What you do versus where you do it. Stay away from job titles as long as possible. Students want to get back to comfortable. Oops. Okay. Students want to get back to comfortable. They are showing up in your office because they're uncomfortable. Something's wrong. They've got to get rid of a hold, or they're coming into our office because they've got to pick a major, somebody's telling them, reading down the neck saying, we're not going to pay for tuition anymore if you don't have a major. KU is saying to them, you don't get to enroll anymore if you don't have an official major. So something is uncomfortable, and when they come in, they're rarely going to come in and say, I'm uncomfortable and I have all this work to do and let's get down to work. What they're really saying is, I'm uncomfortable, I want to get back to comfortable as quickly as possible. So whatever it takes, make it small. So it's not whatever it takes. I just want to get there fast. And part of our job is to help them realize that this isn't going to be fast, and you're going to have to stay a little bit uncomfortable for a little bit longer, or maybe for a lot longer. And part of that is staying away from job titles. People want to glom onto job titles or majors because that feels like that's the answer, that's the end point. And one of the takeaways from Bolles is keep people focused on describing the situation that they're looking for. So I want to be. I'm really good, for example, at writing, and I'm really interested in working with this population or that population. So get them to talk about who does that. Where would you find people who do writing, working with that population? And so people want to grab too quickly onto titles. And once you come up with a title, like, oh, that's a journalist, then everything else that's not journalism is off the table. Whereas, in fact, what they describe, writing for a particular population, could describe a whole bunch of different occupations. So keep them from jumping to the end too quickly.